Hey guys, today I'll show the short recap of a 2019 spy thriller movie titled The Red Sea Diving Resort. The movie begins with a group of soldiers in 3 vehicles with ammunition in their possession driving towards a small town, where they start to shoot the people. A voice explains about his country being broken and their new government waging war against the rebels. A young boy plays in a field without being aware of the killings. A man with a bag rushes to inform another man called Kabit about some troops coming towards them. Kabit quickly tells everyone they need to leave, and one of the men drags a woman along, but she is reluctant to go as it now becomes clear that her son is the one playing on the field. They all quickly ran to meet 2 white men who Kabit had contacted waiting for them with a van. Kabit informs one of the men named Ari Levinson that there's a kid left out in the field, and as soon as Ari and his partner help the refugees get on the van, he runs to save the little boy. The troops finally see the little boy, and as one of them tries to shoot him, Ari quickly sees the boy and saves him. He then confuses them with a truck they thought he was driving, only to see he had used a box to press down the vehicle's turtle. The little boy finally unites with his mother, and Ari drives them all away. They all stop at a point, and Ari burns down the vehicle as they all begin to continue their journey walking. They get to a place where they see dead people burnt down in a vehicle. Kabit sees a woman who he seems to know and helps her out. However, as they cross a river, the woman lets herself get drowned. Ari's partner Sammy tries to save her but can't see her again. They finally get to the refugee camp at night, and someone comes out to welcome Kabit and lets them all in. Late at night, Ari, Sammy, and Kabit are about to leave when some soldiers come to arrest them. However, a man comes to bail them out, introducing himself to them as Walton Bowen, an American. Sammy sees their luggage in his car, and as he asks about it, Walton informs them that they both have a flight to catch in less than 5 hours to London. Ari goes to inform Kabit about it, and he tells Ari that he will get more families pending his arrival back. On getting to Israel, Sammy informs Ari that he's out and will be going back home to the clinic where he worked. Ari goes to meet Ethan Levin, an Israeli intelligence officer, and after they discuss for a while, Ethan asks Ari about his wife, and he makes him know she left him. Ethan informs him that an alternative plan will be coming soon for the Ethiopian refugees. Ari responds by telling him they need to send him back as the alternative plans would only take months before actualizing, and there wasn't time for all that. However, Ethan clarifies that he's not going anywhere and should rather return home to his family. Ari returns home only to listen to a voice recording his wife left for him, saying she took their daughter to her parents' home and left some papers for him to sign. The next day, Ari goes to Ethan's home and tells him about his idea of helping the refugees escape by sea. The next scene shows him discussing with some more Israeli officials about his plan of them helping him lease a Red Sea diving resort hotel. He explains that it was built by an Italian company and was abandoned 5 years ago, and 50 kilometers north of Port Sudan. He makes them understand that the Sudanese government are willing to lease it, and the area where it's located is lawless, as the rebels control it. And they can easily smuggle the refugees out through the sea by Israeli Navy SEALs. Ari's ridiculous plan is approved, and he recruits his former colleagues Rachel Ryder, Jake Wolf, Max Rose and Sammy as well to help him. Ari gives them a different name to introduce themselves, and as Max says his own jokingly, Ethan interrupts them and tells them that none of them is worth sending for the mission as they are all too reckless. He then informs them that there's no exfil plan for them as they would also be going without any weapons, and if anything goes wrong, they would all be hanging from cranes in Khartoum. They finally arrive at the hotel and notice that people have been dwelling in the hotel. Ari sees a man running out of the hotel, and as they chase him, they bump into some people whom Ari assumes are the local staff. Ari finally meets with Kabit at night, and as they both enter the refugee camp, one of the women challenges Kabit for not yet taking them to Jerusalem as he promised, and pleaded with him to be fast about it as her son is sick. The next day, while Ari and his partners set the truck ready, which they would use to smuggle the refugees, some groups of tourists arrive at the hotel. They are all shocked seeing them as the hotel wasn't planned to host real guests. However, one of the tourists showed them a brochure they had printed, which inspired them to come to the resort from a long distance. Ari then decides they run the resort as a legitimate business, as the tourists will also aid in providing a cover-up for their mission. So they all set out for their first mission at night, which didn't seem to go well at first due to some Sudan troops waiting at a roadblock. However, Ari decides they speed past the checkpoint to avoid the soldiers checking the vehicle. They successfully pass through without anyone being killed and arrive at the sea, where the Israeli Navy SEALs smuggle out the refugees. The Sudanese Colonel Abdul Ahmed questions his soldiers about what happened, and tells them that they must never allow the rebels to escape their clutches due to their past deeds with them. However, one of them makes him understand that the drivers who passed through them were whites. The following day, Ari sees some activities in the resort, and Sammy tells him that it's all mentioned in the brochure he created. While on a diving tour, Sammy notifies Ari about some soldiers around waiting for them. Ari goes to meet Colonel Ahmed, who informs him about the previous night's incident and says he came to check if they were all safe. Ari asks what incident, and he responds by saying some smugglers drove through one of their roadblocks and nearly killed 2 of his soldiers. Ahmed then tells him that his soldiers said they shot the trucks, and theirs shouldn't have such holes. He checks it out and sees nothing. He calls one of the soldiers to reconfirm if he shot the truck and says he did it more than 6 times. Ahmed still doesn't see any sign of gunshots, and he leaves the resort. At the Israeli country, Ethan informs the defense minister, a man with gray hair, about the resort running a fake hotel with real tourists. He is angry about it and tells Ethan it will never happen. However, Ari and his partners continue the fake hotel as more tourists show up, and they also engage in their extraction operations of the refugees. They are able to carry out 7 missions with over 3,000 refugees saved successfully. In the next scene, Ahmed and his men go to the refugee camp as he notices that many people have disappeared from the camp base. He asks the people to tell him where they have all gone, but no one responds, and he orders his soldiers to kill some of them. One of the men suddenly talks and informs him about Kabid. The following scene shows Mr. Walton going to the refugee camp and seeing them dead. He goes to see Ari at the resort and informs him about how the refugees disappearing would only cause more trouble. He then tells him that he has just returned from the refugee camp where over 30 people have been killed. As soon as Walton leaves, Ari informs his partners that he feels Walton came to warn them and knows about Kabid, but they would continue their mission. At night they go to get the remaining refugees, and Ari tells Kabid he needs him to get on the truck as the Sudan government knows he has been smuggling people. Kabid refuses to go and tells him he won't stop until he saves everyone. While they get the refugees on the boat, Max alerts Ari that some companies are coming with about 3 to 4 military jeeps. The military soldiers start shooting from afar, and one of the refugee men gets shot at. Sammy quickly runs to help him out, and Ari joins him to help the man get on the boat. Ari prevents the Israeli from engaging in a firing battle and comes out of hiding to stop the Sudanese from going after the Navy SEALs. They then get him, and Sammy arrested. The next scene shows Kabid sneaking into a building, and Ahmed comes out from a hiding spot smoking as his men enter the building. While in the cell, Sammy blames Ari for not listening to him and stopping the mission. He tells him the people will torture and kill them all and begins to weep. As Ari goes to console him, he punches him. Rachel goes to see Colonel Madibo, the man in charge of tourism, and the gatekeepers are not willing to let her see him. She eventually tricks them into entering and quickly runs to get in touch with Madibo as the men chase her. She finally meets him, and he tells the men to leave her. Madibo helps Ari and Sammy get out of the cell, and as they return to the resort, they meet with Ethan, who tells them to meet him inside. Ethan informs Ari that the mission has been compromised and cancelled, and they are all to leave the resort. Ari, Sammy, and Max go to check on Kabid and they get to see that he has been attacked. Kabid informs Ari that there are still hundreds more refugees around they need to save, but Ari makes him understand that the operation is over and they need to return to Israel to regroup. Kabid informs him he will not be leaving. In the next scene, Ahmed and his men visit the resort to have dinner with Ari and his partners. As Ari arrives, Ahmed tells one of his soldiers to check out the trucks, and he returns to say it's empty. As soon as they return to the resort, Max directs the refugees to a hiding spot in the resort. One of Ahmed's men sees the refugees, but Rachel is there in time to kill him. Ahmed leaves the resort after causing a scene with one of his men hitting Ari. Ari sees the dead soldier Rachel killed, and he tells his partner they all need to leave before Ahmed and his men realize about it. Ari goes to meet Walton and asks for his aid in helping the refugees escape Sudan with a plane. Ari and his partners decide to use a Sudanese tour bus to convey the refugees as they are too many. On the other end, Ahmed is playing the guitar in his room when one of his men comes to notify him about seeing the whites escaping with some refugees. They all set to catch up with Ari and the refugees. While on the bus, Ari informs them they're heading to Cartago, an old British airfield, where they would meet with Walton arriving with a plane to help them all escape the country. On arriving there, Ari drops some lighting sticks on the floor to alert the pilots where to alight. Max notifies Ari of some vehicles 9 kilometers away approaching them. Ari believes there is still time, and they suddenly see the plane approaching. The plane finally lands, and one of the soldiers complains that the number of refugees is too much to fill the aircraft. However, they resort to removing the chairs on the plane so it can convey all of them. They are able to all get on the plane and move away in time before Ahmed and his men can reach them. They finally arrive safely at the Israeli airport, and the injured refugees are taken care of. Khabib informs Ari that there are still thousands more refugees, and Ari assures him they will surely return to help them. The movie ends with a voice known as Khabib explaining that Ari did keep his promise, and they went back, again and again, to save all refugees and convey them to Jerusalem for safety. So that's it for today, folks. Hope you had an awesome day, and do not forget to cheer people around you.